Underway now is the most significant challenge to the Roe v. Wade decision to emerge since the Supreme Court foolishly and unconstitutionally made it law back in 1973. Socialist Democrats are very worried, even threatening violence if the High Court corrects this stupid error. Question is why? Is it for women's rights? No, that's silly, as the cruel and Nazi-esque practice of abortion on demand takes female as well as male lives. So what would drive leftists so crazy to threaten violence over the ability to kill without consequences? Roe v. Wade, not babies, deserves to die. That's the subject of tonight's preamble. Let's remember on what basis Roe v. Wade was stupidly decided. In January of 1973, unelected Supreme Court justices issued a 7-2 decision ruling that the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution, the clause that provides a right to privacy, was the basis for allowing the unaccountable slaughter of children in the womb. Now, on its face, the idea of taking another life under the rubric of privacy is absurd. The court made law, created a right to kill right out of thin air. Because of the vacuousness and carelessness of the court, the abortion issue has remained a divisive issue, resulting in the deaths of nearly 70 million children since 1973. Even liberal icon, the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, wasn't fond of the Roe v. Wade decision. Her reasoning was simple and sound. The Supreme Court wrongly and childishly took a consequential debate out of the hands of the people. Let's leave aside for the moment that they used non-applicable citations from the Constitution as justification for doing so. Let's leave aside that creating law isn't the job of the Supreme Court. Ginsburg knew and understood that decisions about what kind of people we are, the culture, the soul of a nation, shouldn't be decided by 9 unelected justices in black robes. The public, through our representatives, needed to have this debate. Other democratic nations like England and Israel, they've had this debate. Their people sided with death, but they debated and came to a resolution. Now, those who value life lost the debate in those countries. But in America, we were denied the right to debate, and wrongly so. So why are Socialist Democrats so eager to preserve abortion on demand? It certainly isn't because it's good law. What has grown out of this terrible decision has been an abortion industry that is now a wholly owned subsidiary of one political party, the Socialist Democrats. Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, John Kerry, and others are leaders of the abortion party. As a result, these left-wing extremists have managed to funnel money into these abortion mills, which in turn launder that taxpayer money into campaign cash. Planned Parenthood, the butcher shop, the nation's largest killer of babies in the womb, receives over $500 million of taxpayer money every year. They use that money to cover their business expenses so they can use the profits from the slaughter of children to donate to their favorite political party, nearly exclusively the Socialist Democrats. The founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, was a known racist, eager to eliminate blacks from American society. The organization she founded is fulfilling her mission with help from lily-white Socialist Democrats. Now, if you go to black and brown neighborhoods around our country, you're going to find a high concentration of abortion clinics. A study released in 2015 by Protecting Black Life and Outreach of Life Issues Institute, they concluded that 79% of Planned Parenthood's surgical abortion facilities are strategically located within walking distance of black and/or Hispanic communities. According to statistics that come from the data published in a New York City Vital Statistics report, more black babies were killed by abortion than were born in New York City in 2016. According to data from the CDC in Mississippi, 72% of babies killed through abortion are black. Overwhelmingly, abortion targets and takes the lives of minority babies. To most human beings, this genocide would be tragic news, not to Socialist Democrats. Watch their reaction when a law was passed in New York allowing a fully developed child to be killed up to 9 months into pregnancy. Now, it's obvious, the killing of babies of color really pleases these deviants on the American left. But what happens when there's talk of protecting babies' lives? What happens when their ability, the left wing's ability, to kill without consequence is threatened? Well, these socialists, they get fighting mad.
I think if you want to see a revolution, go ahead, outlaw Roe v. Wade, and see what the response is of the public, particularly young people.
Wow. Revolution, you say? If a conservative talks like that, they get a visit from the FBI. Or at least they get denounced on MSNBS or CNN for promoting violence. Now, many of you recent graduates of GovEd might be under the impression that if Roe versus Wade is overturned, abortion becomes illegal. It doesn't. If Roe versus Wade suffers the fate of nearly 70 million babies, being ripped apart limb by limb, if Roe versus Wade dies, the debate will return to the states and to we the people. Roe versus Wade is bad law. It deserves to die so that our nation can debate to what degree we treasure life. Abortion is a sacred cow that many left-wingers are willing to commit violence for, even promote a revolution if the slaughter of babies is slowed or stopped. Leftists make a lot of money through the killing of babies of color. I, as your liberty-loving Latino, find that disgusting, abhorrent, downright evil. And evil should be opposed wherever we find it. Now you know the debate and the stakes. We'll see what the Supreme Court says. They have a historic opportunity here to right a historic wrong. Let's hope they don't waste it.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.